want to break it down? Or do you want to think?
I don't think, I think we're too late in this
It
year.
would have to
Oh,
be.
I agree to that, I agree with
Yeah.
that, but is it something that we want to continue
I,
to
I think so.
think about next year?
Yeah.
Or in the next 6-month period? But,
It's easier to answer to the voters when you're on there, and that's especially that, because that's such a variable in our budget. If all of a sudden they look down and so we had a bad winter and we had a lot of overtime,
Yeah,
but if you're only looking at the bottom line from the start, wages in general, people are gonna say, why are they up? Well, you don't know why they're up because you didn't break down the overtime, you
Yeah.
know, so. Speaking of that real quick, how did we work, so Monday was, I dealt with this with a bunch of towns this week. So Monday was a holiday. They worked all day. Some towns give them comp time, some did 2.5%. So they get paid 2.5 times their wage. How did we do it?
2. It's double time.
So they
You
get
paid for your holiday.
double time and a half.
No,
They got time and a half for being overtime. They got time, and they get,
if they spent overtime, which on Monday, they didn't have any overtime for the 40-hour week yet. So typically, it's
in our-
2 times.
oh, so in our contract, they don't get paid time and a half for working a holiday.
They get
Twice.
2 times.
Right.
Double time.
Got it. Huh, but so we don't give comp time.
We have no such thing as comp time.
You know what I'm saying? They
In our
could,
policy, we have no such thing.
okay. Thanks.
it's good we got paid for that.
That's what every town that has a discussion, they just work 12 hours on a holiday.
Yeah.
Do we just give them 12 hours someplace else, they don't get the time and a half? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you have to think about that, you know, which way they want to do. Makes it hard for the road foreman, he's sitting there looking, he's paying 2 times per hour. Do we send them home and then come back and clean up the road later when they're back to a regular hour? Whereas they're getting comp time, you don't worry about it.
Anything else on the quarterly budget you guys want to talk about? Kevin?
No, thank you.
Okay. New dog ordinance.
Hopefully this is the last time you'll see it, but in your packet is the final copy, and it's already been passed, so all we need is signatures. You have an official copy in front of you,
So you
Shall
don't
we
need a
copy?
motion, you don't need a motion, you just need
we
signatures.
just need signatures.
Everybody set?
I don't want to sign
And then in
something.
60 days, that will turn
Go
into
sign, okay.
an ordinance.
Don't come break your legs, but. We'll run you over with a cement mixer.
Thank you.
Town meeting discussion prep. Which you have
So
in front of
there's
you.
bullets underneath it. So the first one is the SeVEDS petition, the update from legal counsel. It's in your packet. The important passage is the last one. It is a moot point at this time because you have already signed the article. But the clerk did do the process correctly, gave proper notification, and then 2 days later, the article should have been corrected with enough signatures. But the state stepped in and gave them 2 extra days, narrowing our window to get this warning in our town report. But it was all done. It's all sealed and delivered, but this is just clarification so that in the future we know that yes, we had done the right thing, that the statute is very clear on steps to be taken, and Ally had done the right thing by quick notification, and anyway. So it is going to be an article, which is your next handout. These are the official articles. We have 15 of them this year. And
SeVEDS is, before we go on, I see SeVEDS here, so I assume that they might want to, do you want to jump in with anything before we move on?
No, we're just paying attention so that we don't cause trouble. I mean, it was really helpful for us to go through this process too, because we work with so many different towns, and so I think
Okay.
it was good to have this clarification. We
Just
really
thought I'd
appreciate the
ask- just thought
consideration.
I'd ask
You know, I mean,
before
I think we're just
Okay.
grateful for the consideration.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no problem. So at this point, as we do every year, I'd like to assign articles. I can tell you what we did last year as we moved through them, but everybody has, we have 14 of them split up between the 5 of you. So,
I think we'll assign some good ones to Toby.
that's right.
I was going to say,
So
what has Toby volunteered for, because she's not here, so.
So Article 2 is typically the chair.
Okay.
Article 3 last year was Craig.
Should be
You
somebody
did a
different.
great job, too.
That's fine.
Should be somebody different this year, though. I've done it 2 years in a row. Isn't there somebody different who can do it?
Oh, you're the vice chair, I think you're good at this. Or I could do it.
This is,
I don't care.
this Article 3 is kind of one of those dead horses, because they don't know, I don't agree with it, but this is what they said they wanted.
We don't know
Our moderator
we don't know until
insisted.
the end whether.
Exactly. The number that's sitting there is not the real number. But there's no discussion on it. There's no, like, you're not going to be able to tell them it's up or down, a percentage, because you really don't know.
But it is where we discuss our budget without the article.
And you can, yes, you can. You can
And
run
this
through
is
the, any highlights or lowlights that you want to explain at that time. But again, I don't care for this, the way to do it. I don't. I'd rather have it at the end, than everybody knows exactly what they're voting on.
Being here for a long time, this is the one where the voters, because we're first, ask you questions that have nothing to do with our budget. It's the first time you can actually start to ask questions that got nothing to do with what you're doing. So it's because we're first. There's people there that they're just going to be there to ask a question, and they think that's where the first time they can do it.
So I will come up with all the details that you need, no facts to help support the article, but I need somebody to read it.
I thought Sue just volunteered.
She said she would,
Susan?
but
Fine. Well,
that means you do the rest of them.
I don't think I have to do any of them.
No, I'm talking about
But-
Craig's doing all the rest of them.
So here's my question. Didn't we change this last year to make this at the end?
What?
After the final budget? Didn't we do that? We talked about
No.
that, right?
No, that's Wade Fletcher did it because.
The way Fletcher did it was we voted on that, and then we did the articles, and then at the end, he declared what we had just voted on.
And we talked about it last year,
We talked about changing it, didn't we?
about changing this.
And then
but-
Fletcher said
But
no,
Fletcher
right?
said no, that's the way he wanted to do it, so that's.
I can double check with him, but this is what he,
We're gonna meet up with Fletcher before we,
that's right, he's
Yeah.
typically he comes
So
next,
if all of a
he's the
sudden
next
they-
meeting of the meeting at.
Which we were put in the bind. If all of a sudden once they approve Article 3, even if they disapprove the rest, you never touch an Article 3, it's done.
That's correct.
Yeah. So that's why it was such a disadvantage, is like, let's just go to the end and put it all together and then.
Yeah.
Because they can't go back and say, well, since we passed these articles, we need to go back and take something out of general
Yeah.
fund.
they could very easily vote not to.
Yeah. No,
That's Article 3, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so then Article 4 was Susan last year.
But we need to change that up. Kevin, you want to do Article 4?
Sure. Absolutely.
Article 5 was done by Nancy. Toby.
Yeah, let's give it to Toby.
Article 6 probably also should be Toby. Or do you want to change that up?
No.
No, let her do it.
I'm assuming there will be people to speak to all of these.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
In the old days, that's
You
what we
have
used to do.
some of them you'll have to actually witness them. Meaning you have to declare that they're going to speak on the subject. They have to be noted. Because they can't speak, because they're not residents. So they're recognized on the floor, and then they are able to speak. So some of these will have to be. SeVEDS is a new one. So
Now we'll move on. Article 7.
so Sheldon,
What?
Article 7.
No, Craig hasn't even just taken one yet.
Oh, Craig hasn't taken one
No,
yet,
I'll take-
sorry.
I'll take
So
it.
let's take Craig, can you do the bridge instead of Toby having 2 in a row?
No, let her do 2 in a row.
All right.
That way she's got the mic in her quick.
Okay.
So where's the?
We're in 7. Sometimes it's easier
Oh, bridge
that, while you got the
area
mic, to do 2 in
Yeah.
a row.
So that's Joby and that's
So you
Joby.
wanna do
Yep,
Article
that
7?
works.
Yeah, I'll do Article.
Article 7, Craig.
I'll do 8 too.
Okay. 9,
That would be a good one for Sue.
What?
Article 9.
Westminster Gazette.
I could do that.
10,
That's a good one for Kevin.
I can't do that one.
Oh, that's right, you're on, that's right.
I'm on the board.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
you want to do that one too?
What did
I'm
Sheldon
done.
do so far? Wait a minute.
I can do
the-
11.
You can do the reserve fund policy.
Yeah, I'm on.
I can do 11 for Kevin.
Okay. Article 12, sorry, I'm going to skip over Great Falls Connection. So Sheldon?
What was, what's article, what is our, oh, Article 12, I see. No. Yeah, okay.
I can do 13.
Greg, 13, and 14.
We can give that to somebody else.
So once the chair wants it, I'll do that one as well.
Yeah, I'll let you do it.
Super. Okay,
You speak better than I do.
right,
You're the only one don't need a
almost
mic.
painless.
We don't need a motion on any of that, we got that done.
No, just, so the next 2 pieces of material in your packets are just information. The year changes, so what appropriations have been approved with the FY20 budget as you agreed to is the $49,795. Pending approval are the 8 new ones. Some are just asking for more money and some are brand new. And if all are approved, it will be $76,909, which is just under 4% of our budget.
And then,
And then the
where do you,
next,
I'm sorry. Oh, down here, okay, sorry, yep, go ahead.
then the next page is what that would do to our proposed rate. So grand list in 2018 versus what we asked for in taxable revenue was .6063. This year, our grand list went up significantly, which helps a ton. It's a difference of $17,945 as it speaks to the rate. And our non-taxable estimated revenue this year is $448,730. So if nothing is passed with any articles except for the budget, it's actually less than last year. If just the equipment and retreatment funds are passed, we're still under last year. Adding all the new appropriations except for SeVEDS, I had all this done before that one became reality, so I just added it at the bottom. But if all the appropriations are done, we're at .6121.
And will the voters have this sheet?
No,
That was my next question. So,
I
when
can't.
Sue's doing her part, and before we start to do the articles, I don't know, is there a way we could talk to the public on that to say, hey, listen, before we start to,
Of course, sir,
Yeah.
yeah. You can say anything you
as
want.
part of
I mean,
our,
it's-
part of what we're trying to address them.
Absolutely.
Here's what we are, but we want to tell you, this is what you have for that's already in your budget, and this
if
is
you-
where we're going.
If you want these two on the rail, I can definitely put these on the rail.
I think that,
Yeah,
at least that one would be useful. I haven't looked at the other one yet, but I
Yeah.
think that would be totally useful piece of information.
because as you do them one after another, you don't really know what you're doing, but if you at least start out saying, just so you know, before we start, if you approve all these articles, this is what it's gonna cost.
Okay? So I'll put both of these on the rail.
And I think we should address it to the audience.
What was the percent of the, not to, I'm sorry to interrupt you. What was the percent of increase on the grant list?
.0, what did it say again?
No, that's the approved rate.
It's on this page, it's 4%, under 4%. It's on this page.
That's the increase in the grant list, or not? That's not what I just said. I lost it, never mind.
Just talking
I'll come back to it.
Talking about that number right there.
No, that's the approved rate. I was asking what the increase of the grant, what percentage of increase of
It's
the
right,
grant
right
list?
across from the grant, 2019 grand list, difference is
And what
$17,945.
percent of, is,
Someone
what
do
is the
that
percentage?
quickly. You can do 17,945 is what percent of 2
Oh.
point?
Jesus, not,
Come on, you mathematicians.
uh,
There's
point-
Kevin. Do you have your calculator out, Kevin?
.01.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not.
Okay, never mind. Someone can do that.
Couldn't figure it out there. Probably did it better. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
I think it's .012. Sounds like
Do it.
Okay. I just thought there'd be some math whiz here. That would
I'm trying to find the total.
No, it's more complicated than that.
Oh,
So,
okay. Maybe class where it's more complicated than.
Well,
that.
if you're after just the grand list as what it is versus the rate, or is it the real grand list, meaning it's that's actually $179,450.
Oh, right, of course.
So
Oh, right.
if you're gonna do percentage, you can't do just like the basic, you wanna do the main.
I'll get
Withdraw your
it
request,
from,
Sheldon, would you?
Absolutely.
well, I can get it from you later anyway, because it's something that's gonna get asked.
Oh,
I know better than all of this stuff.
What did you just say?
.632.
See?
How'd you come up with that? We only raised the 17,000, it's 1.7 million, that's .01.
but it's,
So I don't know which one you're looking at.
Well, let's move
Sheldon
on.
doesn't want to know anymore anyway.
Let's move on. I'll get the,
Yeah, not a problem. So, again, the last piece that I gave you is this. This is what we had on the rail last year. I threw in your packets to refresh your memories. Last year, we had so many questions about how it was all broke up that we decided to do that pie chart. And you're welcome to have it.
This is last year's though.
It's 2017, and I can do it for 2018. That's not an issue. If you thought it was a visual that our taxpayers enjoyed or thought about. To be honest, there was no questions about it. They looked at it, I would assume, but I brought back as many as I brought. I mean, not many of them went home with people. So I don't know if it
Maybe
was
print
kind of a waste or, what's that?
Maybe print
I think they
fewer?
were a good visual thing. I mean, and it was Toby that was really asking for the, as I recall, she was the one that thought it would be a really good idea, and I don't think it was a bad idea.
Ideally, what we'd be able to do is project it on a screen, in fact. That would be,
PowerPoint.
yeah, I mean, just, to me, that, and then it would be up there, and you wouldn't have to print out them all. I mean, I don't know how difficult that would be.
And actually,
I'd have to go through
Fletcher was involved in this as well.
Involved in what?
Was he not? Wasn't he involved?
In the graphic idea?
Yeah.
That he wanted the graph?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know.
that it
Maybe-
would be a better sell, or it would be
Maybe.
easier to explain.
Not sure.
Assuming that they were saying last year, it was a good idea to invite him in.
Yes,
To
absolutely.
have a meeting before.
This is an excellent idea. I think that you guys put this out last year. I was on board last year, but I thought this was a very good idea.
It's all in the process, so it's gonna be very easy to.
So let's do it.
Yeah, but I mean, if we wanted to print less, and maybe if we could figure out some way just to project it and so that people,
Yep.
whatever,
We can do that.
that's my suggestion.
So, this is the reserve fund balance policy in your packets. We took your advice, and now it's right after the warning in the town report, it's gonna be on the next page. So, when someone stands up and starts reading this, I move, then they'll speak to it and say, folks, it's on the next page.
I think that's good, so
Um,
people can follow.
So they can
it.
follow it immediately, so we don't have to object or anything. They can literally have their town reports right in their hands and be done with it.
Good.
So we want to really read it and understand it again, the next meetings. Whoever has that, I can't even remember. Who took that one?
I do, I have that.
Kevin? Okay.
Yeah.
So Kevin, you and I will work on that.
Yes.
And what I typically do, just to let you know, is every article, I will give you facts. Whether you use them or not, that's your prerogative. I'm just going to give you facts. So, such as the equipment fund, what we bought last year and what we're proposing to buy this year. What the bridge rehabilitation, what we're planning to do with that monies, how much money we have. I'll give you all the facts that you need to answer questions that are possibly going to come up at town meeting. It seemed to work out pretty well last year. You'll have a fact sheet right there with your article. And,
Very good.
okay. And so I kept this on there, the Phase 3 funding, because it probably should be spoke about under the last article, which is to transact any other proper business to be brought before the town of Westminster. It depends on whether they pass the reserve fund balance policy, and then how much of that is actually going to be placed into the policy immediately from the surplus coming from FY19, which is proposed to be some.
Right, so we'll have the surplus, and so the question is, what do we do with that? We don't have to put it under this
All
policy.
into there, right? You
No.
can put some of it in
We
there.
could put some of it in, we
Yeah.
could put some of it, pay for the town hall, we could return some to the taxpayers.
That's correct.
The
And
final
in
decision,
March, we'll have a better shot at
Uh-huh,
estimating how much we're talking about.
uh-huh.
And so that discussion should take place. And whether it comes up in the reserve fund policy article, that'd be great, but if it doesn't, I'm kind of dumping it on you folks to bring it up under other business.
And you need to have, back on this town hall, you really need to have pictures and show where we are, what we've spent, and how far we've gotten, or how much farther we've gotten than was anticipated on with what we've spent. So that can be seen basically at the meeting. I think that's very important, especially if we're gonna try to get more funding to finish.
Yeah.
We won't know by March how much more it's going to take to finish, because that won't be up to bid yet.
True, but
We can estimate.
Ballpark.
we'd really like to, we'd really like to show or I would like to show the town how far we've
Yeah,
got.
that's the easy part. It's trying to request funds to be set aside so we're not borrowing to finish the town hall. That's where it gets kind of sketchy, because you're gonna say, well, how much is it?
Right, but I
That's
don't want
what
to
the
step and say
estimate
we don't have any idea.
Right. We
That
don't
would
want.
not be good.
No, we don't want to do that. So we'll
Right.
have an estimate, but it will be an estimate.
Okay, gotcha.
And, the big picture wise, if you look at what Skangus had, thrown at us for a figure,
Right.
and how much we've done for far less than what that estimate was, we're really in pretty good shape along those lines, so,
Right.
or I think we are anyway.
May I address one thing? May I interject just one thing briefly? I'm not sure if this is the appropriate time. Under new business, Russ, you have handout formal audits and letters. Are you referring to the audit that we received?
Yes, I have
Okay.
formal.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later, right?
Yes.
Business, yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I will reserve till that time. Thank you.
Aye. So do you have what you need for that?
Yes, at this point, I just wanted to make sure that you're kind of in the mode of thinking that if it didn't come up in the reserve fund policy discussion, it's got to come up in another fashion.
And, okay, so that's all that we had under C. D is the town of Putney request clarification. Anything else you want?
No?
All right, so we've already kind of
Good
done
there.
that. Any other unfinished business to discuss at this time? Hearing none, we'll go on to new business.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for coming.
Be safe. Going home.
Drive carefully. Executive session, two personnel matters.
I'll move that we go to executive session to discuss 2 personnel matters, invite the town manager.
Second that.
Motion's been moved and seconded by whoever you want, Kevin or
Kevin.
Sylvia.
Thank you, Kevin.
To go into executive session on 2 personnel matters. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Those opposed? And we will go into an executive session after other business. Handout formal auditors letters.
I don't know how many copies you want of this, but I do have the formal ones. If you're into that, they're right here. If you're not, if you've
How are they
got,
different from this?
they are not different from there. They're just bound. They're just bound.
It's the one you probably already have.
Paul
They're-
would like one.
They're kind of neat if you kept last
Paul already
year's.
has one
Oh,
in
he
the
does?
town hall.
Oh, okay.
Yep, and if he wants one for himself, then he'll get a paper one.
They're kind of neat. The only reason that I keep the bound ones is they're kind of neat to put kind of put it, so you put it with last year's or the last big one that we got. And it's-
I'll
and
take
if you
one
want
then.
to compare them.
Right.
If you don't care, it doesn't
Thank
really
you.
matter.
Thank you.
We paid for them.
I get,
I read this one more than I do my personal one, so.
so these are the letters. You want the pretty blue letters to go with
Are
them?
those the ones we already have the letters, right?
Yes, they are.
We already
I
have
don't
the
need
letters.
I don't need a letter.
Yes, no? All set?
So, I
Kevin?
got mine from last
You want the
week,
formal letter?
Please.
2 weeks ago.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
mess, is what I want to know. Here's the letter. Here's my letter.
Last 2 weeks ago letter?
No, the audit got me.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
Any other business to discuss at this time?
Well, they want to talk about the audit at this
Okay.
time, right?
I just have I'm going to be brief, if I may. So after reviewing, thank you to Russ for everything and Sullivan and Powers for the audit, there are several references that I just wanted clarification since we're on the record that may come up at Town Hall for the voters. And I wanted to clarify specifically regarding oversight on investment policy statement and/or the nature of government funds and the description of government funds by Sullivan, Powers and Company. I appreciate their observation. I'm simply going to allude to the financial institution letter issued by the Federal Department Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation of the federal government, which is executed by Congress for providing a backdrop in the event of a financial concern that may imperil funds, particularly those for Westminster and its citizens that are currently housed in various financial institutions. The manager of the town gave me a listing of these, and I thank him for that. And based on my years of experience, these have been properly dispersed and maintained. I bring this to the attention simply to the concern of the audit that on November 28, 2018, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation issued its financial institution letter FIL 78. These letters are issued in accordance with the role of the FDIC. It is incumbent on every town in America or anyone else that holds these funds to be aware of the following, that the FDIC is only required to insure 1.35% of all deposits. I don't think the public is aware of that. And when I look at the information that the auditor provided, they're just doing their job, and some people may interpret this to be a little bit more odorous than it really is. Your funds are only insured to 1.35% on that memo, meaning that for the $7.6 trillion that are in the bank, the federal government only keeps $100 billion as a backstop. So our obligation as a town for the voters to protect our money when it's in cash, I would recommend that we simply revisit that only just to make sure that in fact the particular vehicle that we're using while the money is being used or excuse me, is not being used, is cognizant of that risk and is in the most safe place possible in the event that the federal department, the FDIC in its current state obviously can't pay to protect deposits. I bring this to the attention because when I read this repeatedly and repeatedly, there's a redundancy over what we're doing with our funds to protect it, and I think that the board's done an excellent job in doing that, and I'm just new to it. It's something that everyone should be aware of, and they're not. We do the very best. You can do the very best you can by putting the money in the bank, but the banks don't have the insurance to cover the deposit unless that deposit is directly in the form of a United States Treasury bill or something shorter than that would be more appropriate. And I think by doing so, the town would be not only meeting the recommendations of Sullivan and Power, but well within its guidelines of going beyond what is a required mandate to protect the funds and meet a higher standard of financial priority commitment as far as what we're trying to do regarding any investment policy statement or controls in protecting the funds that the town has. And that was about 3 minutes.
25 minutes or less? 25 words or less?
Yeah.
What did you say? 25 words or less?
I'm sorry.
What's the answer?
What?
The answer is we should, when our capital is at rest, it should be just, the bank should have it in a short term, it just should have it in treasury bills, which don't cost any money, but they're direct obligations of the U.S. government, not in a CD. Because what I'm simply saying is when I looked at the money that you provided me, thank you, and I got to know where everything is, that alleviates all this. They're just doing, when I'm reading it, it's standard, it's what they call boilerplate. But to alleviate this, if we put our money just in, it doesn't change anything, by the way. We could have our money the same day. It's liquid the same day. If you buy it in the morning, it's liquid in the afternoon.
Who would make that decision?
Well, we would simply report it to the people who are handling, we would make it just a point to the people that have our money to be doing that.
But when the treasurer. would
It's
the
actually,
treasurer make-
it's actually in the treasurer's hands to
Right.
The treasurer.
Right. That's what we should, well,
But
whoever,
you
we
would
should
have
be.
to make a motion to.
Yes. And what I'm simply pointing out is it's elementary. That is a direct obligation of the federal government. It's their cash. That's what they use to settle all their business. It goes out to 90 days. It is the most secure thing you could possibly buy or own. It is, there's no cost. It's not it doesn't change what we're doing. It just alleviates what the FDIC has just said. We don't have any money to protect your deposit. So when I looked through this, I wasn't overcomplicating it. I read specifically, I read over multiple times that would more than cure these recommendations on the finance side
So we should be doing this immediately.
as quickly as possible. It's not a big deal.
No,
So thank you. I just thought I'd bring that to everyone's
it would be
attention.
safer.
Oh, yes. And considering
At
what
this
they
point
just
in time.
reported, I mean, there's a reason the director, she went out there and said that.
So is it so important that we should make a motion right now?
Yes.
Please.
I would make a motion that the board adopt the recommendation for the treasurer of the town to require that our financial holding companies that hold the cash for the citizens of the town of Westminster require that the financial institutions and our custodians hold short-term treasury bills of the United States government out 30 to 90 days.
I'll second.
So this is something that we couldn't think about for a couple of weeks because tomorrow something bad is going to happen?
No.
Yeah.
I'm going by the report on the audit because that was on the agenda. That financial controls, there was a discussion over financial controls.
Right.
One of the primary protections on financial controls obviously is capital preservation. And we couldn't make a more bolder statement or protection for the people of the town by simply making sure that we require that those folks that are holding on to the money of the people of town make sure that it's in the treasury bill, it's in treasury bills and not sitting idly in a unprotected CD or a unprotected bank money market fund, because the perception is it is protected when the director of the FDIC just told you that it's not.
And this would address the investment and banking policy.
Yes, it would.
issue
Yes.
It basically becomes a good practice.
Yes, thank you.
Okay,
And it addresses what Sue just
Right.
said.
so we got a motion made and seconded.
No, we don't have a second.
I second
Correct.
it. I did.
And Sue seconded.
That's right.
And Bob seconded. To direct the treasurer to direct the bank, which would be
Mascoma.
Mascoma, to make sure the town monies are in US Treasury bills, rather than,
CDs.
On page 4 in the report, it's talking about 17 individual government funds. And I'm simply bringing this up in the sense that a lot has come to light recently as to when you initiate into the government funds that we have or that I reviewed, that doesn't necessarily mean, as the auditor, to meet the auditor's request, that we are in fact holding government funds. We are hoping that the bank and or the custodian who creates these securities actually is holding government funds, but we know that sometimes that is not the case. And simply by going to a very clear-cut vanilla chalk, just a vanilla direct ownership, we're cutting out all of this that they're alluding to, these 17 things, and going right to the heart of the matter, which is a direct obligation of the federal government. something they have to pay, because that security is something that they can't operate on without it.
Why would the bank not have recommended that's where we put our money?
They
I
might
don't,
be
I
doing
don't
this.
know.
They
Yeah,
might
I-
already
So we
be
don't
doing
really
this
know
stuff.
where the money is, is what we're saying.
No, if what you gave me is where the money is, where you
Right,
showed me,
exactly.
right. Again, I don't wanna get into it, I didn't
Oh,
mean
I
to open
see.
up
So
a
then-
can of worms. A certificate of deposit,
Yes.
okay, is only insured by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation.
Right, yeah, I understood what you
Okay.
said, yeah.
The FDIC has just told you in this memo that it only has 1.35%
Right.
of the money to protect your deposits, meaning that they don't have the money should we have a financial meltdown or
Right.
problem like we had similar to 2009, 2009, God forbid.
Even though they tell you they do when you
That's
walk
right.
into the bank.
That's right. And I don't know I'm not in their head, I don't know, I don't want to speak for anyone, I'm not trying to cast aspersions against anyone either, I'm just simply pointing out that this is the bottom line, I mean,
Don't be surprised if you get a call from myself. and
That's fine.
Paul,
Yeah,
and you to go
it's great.
get this.
So where are we on the motion again?
I think it's been moved and
It's
seconded.
motion and seconded, and we just need a vote.
I know, but,
He's having a hard time repeating it, so.
well, I just wanted to make sure we had everything into the motion that I
Pretty much
wanted.
do it. It's,
Motion as Kevin made is what you're trying to say.
No, I was trying to clarify it actually a little bit, but, anyway.
You said direct
This is
treasurer,
executive,
just
so I
direct
was reading
mass
it.
to make sure town monies are in US treasurer
Pretty good
bills,
with it.
that's what you said.
and not.
No, they did an excellent job.
And not,
CDs that are not
Yes.
completely
all right.
insured.
Is everybody good with that? Hearing no, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? You have your, so run that by our treasurer.
Our new treasurer.
Okay.
So far.
Anything else on formal audits and letters?
I guess I do have, so in this letter which talks about the various deficiencies, et cetera, are we going to address any of these in the future?
We have, and my answer is in the manager's executive response to that.
Okay.
And it is sufficient in that we explained that we were in the process of changing treasurers, so that there was many eyes and many hands in the process. So now we have honed it into having a full-time treasurer, a financial officer, and NIMRIC overseeing all of the transactions that they were concerned with a deficiency.
Yeah, you're talking about this first one, the internal controls and the posting.
The internal controls and the
Right.
postings of,
Right, but there are several other things that are longer term, that the accounting procedures manual, the fraud risk assessment, these various documentation things that, do you know what I'm talking about?
Wouldn't it be responsible for us to meet with it, after maybe in a little while anyways, to go over this with the town clerk, the town treasurer, and you, and the select board? In other words, have a meeting with all of us, we're all players in this,
Yeah.
to discuss that this is what Sullivan, so how are we working together to
but again, you have to have all the players in place, and we just got them.
Right.
So
Right.
now,
it wouldn't be
it's a work in progress.
It wouldn't be
and-
a meeting to be critical of somebody, it'd be more of a meeting like here.
Right,
this
and
look-
Chad would have to be there.
Right, yeah.
From Sullivan Powers
Right,
to guide us through what he's truly looking for.
Right, and
in a
I'm
manual.
thinking of the bigger things like have a fraud policy. Well, that will take us a while, and working with VLCT to work on that. This documentation, internal control, I'm assuming that would be a
I don't think
broader-
VLCT as much as Sullivan Powers.
Or
If
maybe-
they- if they're-
I don't know what
If
the-
they're calling out a manual, they
Uh-huh.
obviously have one.
Right, so a manual, that
So-
would be good. I mean, the other thing that they would not necessarily have a part of is this signing of the timesheets. You know what I'm
Signing
talking
of the
about?
timesheets.
Does this not ring a bell?
Authorization of timesheets.
Yeah, where is it? Oh, authorization of timesheets. Timesheets are now being signed by department heads.
Only one.
Is that you?
I'm doing it, but the other one is not, so if you,
Well, maybe we should meet and because, and has
Yeah,
this been
that's fine.
given to the other department heads?
they have, yeah, they have audit and
Okay,
letter.
okay. I'm just saying we should address
Absolutely.
these, all these, whether it's long-term or
So
tonight.
department heads, we, basically, we're looking at the town clerk and we're looking at the listers. Does that have to be considered into this? As
The
department?
listers is mine. I look at their time, I do Kelly's, and I do
And the road.
crew. And Mark has already done the road crew to make sure that it matches, and now Chuck will start doing it, matches what they did. And so that gets actually 2 sets of eyes, 1 signature mine. And then Ally and Patty, Ally sees it but doesn't actually sign it. So that's a quick fix, actually, just to initial. I used to initial hers, and I told you I wouldn't do that anymore. So.
But the
she
select
just did
board,
it all.
but the select board, basically,
That's the other thing, is you
sign
guys see.
it. We see it and we sign it. So basically what they're saying, I mean, we are the department heads, if you will.
Is that what that means?
Yeah.
But we sign it, so why are they saying we
You
don't
don't
sign it?
initial each.
Oh, each time sheet.
Time sheet. And I do the bulk road crew, so that should be sufficient. I do Kelly's every
Mm-hmm.
pay period, I do my own, and then the only one we're missing is literally the town clerk, and the lister, Jackie, should have her initials on the
Yeah.
two, the other two. So,
Thank you.
Because she's chair?
because she's the head lister, yes. You have to have a head lister, and she's got seniority over both of the others.
Okay.
Which
So
to
we're-
me
we're- that
seems
one's
kind of
very
a
minor.
pain, because we're already looking at,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at the warrants, the way you should be looking at the warrants, you're really kind of, you should be checking the time cards again, you know.
It was always brought up in that discussion before, that before the select board signs that, you actually have this piece of paper from each department saying, these are okay.
Uh-huh.
And that's what the argument was when Doreen was here, was, wait a minute, the town manager is still the ultimate responsible that we stay within budget. So even though she says this is all legal, still goes to the person that's looking after the budget, which is the town manager, to say, yeah, this is where it should be. Before we sign, but we don't really ever get that.
Right, and then they're not, last thing I'll say, they're not clear on, am I interpreting this as a policy initiative that they want to erect firewalls, right? Because that's the way I'm looking at it, right? We do policy statements all the time, whether it's conflict of interest, fraud policy, I get what they're saying. But, are they saying that also, should there be a firewall, so on our checklist when they're doing a review, or the necessary regulator is doing its review, that you have these established protocols and the proper firewall is erected, so they have a checklist. That's how I interpret these documents. So like you said last time we spoke, or last meeting, I don't look at them as being this, overly negative thing, but I'm not in the mind of, I'm not in their.
When I talked to him, I
Right.
said, what are the main deficiencies that we really have to look at
Right.
immediately?
Yeah.
And he said the only one was and I'm drawing a blanket, there's terminology, it's the transactions, the journal entries that were erroneous, and
Uh-huh.
we needed to correct that.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest issue in the whole process. We had to correct about
Yeah.
20 of them. And at that point, everything else was in place, whether it was dotted and crossed, probably not, but everything is in place. Eyes are seeing every document going in, cash going out, cash coming in, so that's all being done very well. They like the idea of 2 signatures from the select board, And they liked how I was seeing every transaction that came in. So we are
Right.
working towards the ultimate goal of
Right, I'm just
getting
saying we
their
should
check
address
list
the
perfectly.
recommendations.
Right, oh,
At some
absolutely,
point,
it's not
so,
anything
right.
just to cast to the side, but it is
Right.
something that is being done, maybe not to their
Russ, when was,
perfect checklist.
you know, our first thing when we found out that we were almost 400,000 short because of the mistake that Ally made? And our first question I asked you was, well, why didn't Sullivan pick it up? And he said they would the next year, which makes sense. But we've been that next year. How come I haven't seen anything written about that mistake?
It was
from-
in the 2017,
It was?
oh, yeah,
I don't remember.
yeah, I mean,
Was
it's not outstandingly bold and
It
red.
wasn't outstandingly
But it
bold.
was, it's stated that there was a mistake of
Right.
significant amount.
I don't remember.
Yeah, it was in there.
Okay, thanks.
Are we ready for the manager's report?
Don't be so excited.
I just wanted to make sure.
Very brief, town hall renovation phase 2 update, what we're working on right now. The bathroom is sheet rock, taped, mudded, wired and plumbed. We are working on the bathroom floor. They're gonna set a precedence, working in the bathroom. And why is because we have to match the elevation of the floor. The floor is an old floor, so you've got some humps and hollows and you've got the dips and, but whatever they do, it is going to have to be able to be matched to go fluidly into the hallway, out the hallway and into the other apartments. So we've tossed around 100 things, but the subfloor is so thick that the only way to match what we've got to the elevation we've got is to do like a 5/4 tongue and groove decking. That's pretty much what we have. We kind of veered away from variable widths. That's not historic. That's not typically how old floors looked. They typically ran the same product and they ran and ran and ran, varied lengths but not varied widths. So we're talking about getting some pricing on some widths, and I will come back to you with it. We're thinking it's going to be 4.5 inches wide at the finish, which will make it a 6-inch floor with a very heavy-duty tongue and groove, varnished, and maybe again tint it to that blackish stain that was of the main floor of the historic town hall. But I have no pricing yet, so when we get that pricing, I will be bringing it to you and hopefully have even a sample to show you
That would be nice.
what we're talking about. But just know we're working on that. It's not part of their scope of work because we were so in limbo with the floor. We had no idea what we were going to do there.
So that'll be more.
I looked into the Arnold and Skangus report. They didn't address it either. They had no idea what they were going to run into with what's underneath there.
Yep.
So anyway, we're.
So we're gonna
doing
set a
it.
precedence with this bathroom floor no matter what we do, but that's fine.
That's
That gives everybody level playing field of where we're going from there.
Absolutely. For the next phase, it will be perfect, so.
Okay.
But anyway, I'll get you pricing and samples on that. And the front door replacement will be soon. They have done a little bit of coring and poking and prodding, and what their initial assessment was is that big beam that I don't really want to replace can be shaved and a board attached to it for a fascia, because it's going to be seen on the new stairs, because the stairs are going to drop down 6 inches, so I'm not plowing with the door. Right now, if it snows while we're in the building, I literally have to put my foot against the door and we push, and you plow snow with the door because it's right flush. We're going to have a step. When those all come out, the brand new steps are going to be down about 6 inches to code, and at that point that will show. So we want something, dressy on that face. But the beam itself is not in as bad a shape as what was initially thought, which is a good thing. That beam is huge, it's long, solid, and I really hated to chop it and make it piecemeal. So I don't think we need to, which is a good thing. So hopefully that will go as soon as next week, weather permitting. They're gonna cut the initial concrete, take the pieces out, work on it, and then put them back for the rest of the winter. Well, next spring we'll tear it apart and get it done. Just wanting to make sure everybody is on board with Saturday, 5:30 for you folks.
AM or PM?
Excuse me?
AM or PM?
It's up to you. Probably PM would be probably better. And then in your packets, you have the report from Wyndham County Sheriff. I had to mark it up for you. So on mine doesn't have it. On the back page, the last page, I wrote what our deficiencies are. No, I didn't. I didn't write on the back page of anybody's. So I've got it here, sorry.
Is that saying we got 30,000 in fines? I mean,
Right now, there's 30,000 in fines, but we've received 11. So that's the court's takings, is they're taking about 30%. We're down, and this is going to be, I recall, about 200 hours of service from Wyndham County Sheriff as it sits right now, which is unfortunate.
Down $200, I'm sorry.
200 hours
For the
of
year
service
or for the?
to date.
For their
For their-
contract.
Per their contract.
Mhm.
I don't know what I did with it, it's in this mess somewhere.
But our new contract.
So they haven't really improved it, because we were down 200 hours last time we talked to them.
They were about 120 at that point, and they've gotten worse because John Griffiths had to do some classes, so he was not in the area all week. We went one period of 7 days without any coverage at all. Chris DeVito is going to step in and do 1 day a week for a while. They're going to switch back and forth. This is their, I don't know what they're doing, but that's what they said. I told them that I was not interested in having a bulk rush of 200 hours. I don't want 6 officers riding around one day. We want to do this,
Yeah.
constant.
As we had,
Useful.
As we
Discussed.
contracted, right. So, they're working on that, but.
so I said they were in Saxon's River today all day.
I saw that.
They were in
which is-
Westminster.
Which is not Westminster, so.
They were in Westminster. They stopped some people at the middle of the
Did
day.
they?
Yeah, right in the
Okay.
middle, right in the middle of town.
Good, good.
At the post office crossing?
In front of the church,
Oh,
people
did-
coming from Super Wednesday.
Speaking of that, has nothing to do with anything. Did you hear the news last night and this morning? State of Vermont has issued a huge alert that V-Trans will be adding better signage and crosswalks and lights for pedestrians because we are now exceeding the limit of how many people have gotten hit and injured
Okay,
by
let's
vehicles.
resend that letter.
And so I was shocked. I was like, oh, wait till the select board hear this.
Let's resend, I think we should send that letter
Yep.
again.
And,
So we might get it yet.
and go and basically refer to the state of Vermont's new,
That's exactly right.
right.
New
In
incentive.
light of your new incentive,
We want to be the first to renew our request
our urgent request,
Our urgent request.
that we started 10 years ago.
So, yeah, that was good. But that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. Did you tell us what you were going to mark up on this?
Yeah, I did.
All right.
Less 200 hours, and the money, we have budgeted 20,000, we've got 11,800, and we should have 12,000 at this point. So they're, money-wise, they're doing fine with tickets and fines, but hours, they're very, very much short.
But again, that is not our
No,
problem.
nope, nothing to do with us. So,
That is their problem.
check will be cut at the end of the year if they don't make it. as he told you.
Okay, manager's report, that's done. Boards and commissions, anything?
I don't have anything.
Any other business to be conducted at this time?
I just want to make a couple requests
Is it
for,
other business or?
well, it kind of is
something
other
else?
business, so maybe I should just call Russ tomorrow, but I think the dog clinic, the rabies clinic, I saw it somewhere on the website, but there are a couple places it should be, like under the events, and also that calendar thing, no, calendar thing, it's a calendar, doesn't have any items on it. So I think we should start filling that in with like town meeting, but also the rabies clinic.
Okay?
So there are a
It
couple.
gets a whole page in your town,
Right,
town plan.
but I think we should put it on the website too. There, I mean, put it a
Town
couple
report,
places,
sorry.
that rabies clinic,
Yep.
so.
Yeah, I can do that.
And actually, somebody asked me about that, but what would you say, I mean, your rabies vaccinations are for 2 years.
Correct.
So I think, and we don't have to do it tonight, but I think it would be good if we came up with a plan to say, all right, you get your dog, vaccinated for 2 years, you can get a license for 2 years and have it, $1 or
$6,
$2 less than it would be for doing
We are
2
as-
years.
We are as light as we can be on our licenses, as
I know, but
Patty showed you guys.
as we've talked about, though, we're trying to get, the
More people to-
60% that aren't registering their dogs.
Yeah.
And it would be
to
less
register them.
cost if you register your dog for 2 years, because there'd only be one tag
Yeah.
and blah, 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 blah. So we could cut the price a little, I would think. Yeah.
Just a thought, I mean, we were trying to come up with,
If you're gambling, your dog won't be hit by a car, but, and you've lost your $6, but. I think it's a great idea, Sheldon.
Something to think about, because we were trying to come up
No, I'm
with
totally-
motivation to get people to.
So if your dog is 12 years old, you don't want to buy a 2-year ticket, that's what you're
Right.
saying, right?
I don't know, my truck's 12 years old, I register it for 2 years, so, I'm taking the
But you
same
can
chance.
transfer that license, I don't think you can transfer that dog license,
You have two of them? you
Yeah.
think?
No, that was essentially.
I have something real quick on another business, you don't mind?
I don't know.
I was actually, should have discussed it when Russ was talking. In my travels lately, I've been real curious with other towns. I've been surveying towns, my way of doing it, and basically on the police force, because almost every town I go to, there's some kind of a department of either, and it's surprising, so I try to find towns that are our size. So I was looking at Thetford the other day, because I was doing business with them. They have 3 full-time police officers, and they're smaller than us. And I asked him, I said, why would, he says, it's just a much better town to live in. People want it. Bridgewater, when I was talking about, they have the same contract, the same complaint with Southern Sheriff's Department. Same contract we have. They said they used to be they used to have an income coming in, now they have to pay. But all of them, when I talk to them, say they would not want to be without. There's so much things, and we only seem to talk about the money for tickets coming in. For all these, and these are all road foremen, they're all going, I wouldn't want to be a road foreman without it. He says the biggest thing they have to deal with all the time is overweight. Every day loggers call them about using a road, and if they loggers know that they don't have a sheriff department, they just like, well, we're just gonna go through the road no matter what. Because they know the road foreman hasn't got time to monitor all the roads. And if the road foreman has a backup where they says, I have a sheriff working for me, it's more clout.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing with what goes on with, you're basically trying to prevent incidents between people and between animals.
Absolutely.
And when you have the sheriff's department, how do you put a price on that?
Yeah.
Now, at the same time, I'm upset that they're doing such poor service to us, but I'm adamant about we should have a police force here. We should get better service. When I talk to all the businesses from BDR all the way down, they're going, please don't give, they come through, they drive through our yard. It's just enough to keep us secure, because other than that, the state police doesn't do any of that. All they do is just go to an incident.
They're
We need-
presence.
Yeah.
So if it's an excellent idea, if we had an exploratory committee that just looked into it, what harm would that do?
Look into,
Create, what the feasibility would be to have our own police officers or police
Putney
officers.
did this 2 years ago, and I went to all the meetings, or I went to probably 3 or 4 meetings. And it becomes the insurance, the outfitting with the car, it becomes way out of
Cost prohibitive.
grasp.
But on the
Yeah.
other hand-
You have to.
On the other
hire the
hand,
service.
I was sold on the idea that originally we were gonna have a person assigned to us. I
Yeah.
was really sold that eventually we could use like the North Community House, so that they have an office, so that somebody could go to the police department to talk to them for help.
Yeah.
It could be used for crisis centers. Sometimes you were like, well, where do I go for any reason? It's just that the contract we have is not good now, it's not quite working. But to just say I give up and I don't want to do it, no. I really think the goal we're doing, I would say that, yeah, hopefully we're not to a point where but it wouldn't be a stupid idea to investigate, because I see more and more towns have a full-time police officer. I was thinking more about going back to Putney again, to share it with them. Maybe that, we were going to originally do one for Putney, one for us, and we were going to share them. Maybe, going back to what he's saying is, maybe if the sheriff's department that bad, do we actually end up sharing with Putney one full-time with a car that they monitor, and we still have the backup of the sheriff's department? No, we have to go to the voters and say, this is what we're getting, but to live in a town without it, I mean, going back to when Sonia was here, she says, please, you gotta do something. I'm so involved with dog issues. Well, when you go to a house, what is the town manager's got no pull. When you send the sheriff to go, it's done. The problem is gone. And I just think that it's hard to put a price on them just being a present here. It's easy to measure tickets, but that's really not what we asked them for. We're asking them to monitor it so we can have a nice community to live in.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
my speech.
Well, we probably have to make it a town meeting. So,
Yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Make it, just get, practice it, so you get it down.
Yep.
So that it's, less than, a 15-minute speech. Okay. Any other business at this time? Date of the next meeting, February 13th, 2019. We will go into executive session. Thank you all for coming.
He's punching.